Welcome back. President Biden's leadership called into question by a member of his own party for failing to hold his administration accountable. Joining me now, Fox Nation host Tomi Lahren. Tomi, Merry Christmas. Great to see you here. Here's what this anonymous Democrat had to say. Quote, "It started with Afghanistan. Nobody was held accountable for the chaos that the Afghanistan withdrawal constituted. It allowed everyone to get a pass. It sent a message that the president will stick by you. So whatever you want. So do whatever you want. I do think Biden needs to clean house if we have any chance of salvaging 2022. Look, Tomi, this was just a matter of time before midterms approached. There's definitely a jumping off of the Titanic happening. What are the ramifications of this effort by Democrats to distance themselves from Joe Biden?
Well, I agree with this anonymous House Democrats' response, and I agree with what he's saying. I do wish that those members and those House members and those senators, those Democrats that are elected across the nation, if they don't believe in this administration and they don't believe in the agenda of this administration and their party as a whole, they need to come out vocally and transparently, and they need to condemn it. Then they need to put forth a better solution for their constituents, who I believe are more moderate Democrats. But until then, these anonymous comments, well, they're somewhat useless. But as you mentioned, Todd, we knew this was going to happen, and I believe that this was set up from the get-go. I never believed that the Democrats were going to stand behind Joe Biden. I believe he was a Trojan horse for their agenda. He was what they paraded around the American people as some kind of a moderate to those Democrats who didn't like Donald Trump because of his mean tweets. They paraded moderate Joe Biden out there to get those moderate votes, and then they pushed through their radical agenda. So it's not enough to quietly or anonymously condemn Biden or his actions or his numerous crises at hand. They need to come out and they need to provide a better solution, and they need to show themselves so we know who they are.
Yeah, to that point, Tomi, I think what you have is you have a little bit of these uber liberals in the White House following their religion, which I'm kind of making a joke here, but I'm kind of not, was the show The West Wing, where the players, they pulled levers and they did everything behind the scenes to get what they ultimately wanted. That's not how it works in reality. Will Joe Biden get his team in line?
Well, I don't believe that Joe Biden is in charge of his team, quite frankly, or even his teleprompter for that matter, or his message or anything he says to the American people or otherwise. There is definitely somebody behind the scenes pulling the strings. As Charlemagne the God asked Kamala Harris the other day, who really is the president? I don't believe it's Joe Manchin. I believe it may be Fauci, it may be Obama, but I don't believe it's Joe Biden. He might be the one sitting in that Oval Office, but he's not in control. We'd sure like to know who is in control so we know who to blame. But it's not just Joe. It's that party as a whole, and they need to come out and provide better solutions for those moderate Democrats that I believe are their base and their majority.
Well, somebody with a lot of power right now in Washington, D.C. is, of course, Joe Manchin. Here's Mitch McConnell suggesting that Joe Manchin should join the GOP. Listen.
He doesn't fit well over there, but that's a decision ultimately he has to make. We certainly welcome him to join us if he were so inclined.
Tomi, to put a bow on this from what you were saying earlier, hasn't this whole episode with Manchin shown the inability of Democrats to govern, quote unquote, for the people and not for the liberal blue check brigade on Twitter?
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a big divide in the Democrat Party between those that are popular on social media, like the Squad, and those that are actually popular with their constituents that, as I mentioned, are much more moderate than that social activist side would believe. But I think we have to be careful of making Joe Manchin some kind of a messiah or a hero. He did the right thing. We hope he continues to do the right thing. But at the end of the day, the Democrat Party needs to have a reckoning within itself, and it needs to decide, is it going to remember those forgotten Americans who also happen to be Democrats, who, again, voted for Joe Biden because they didn't like Trump's tweets, but now we're having some serious buyer's remorse, as they should? Are those Democrats going to represent those constituents that are truly their base and majority, or are they going to continue to placate to the BLM, the social media activists of their party that might be loud, but I believe are actually the minority? And they're going to lose big in 2022 if they don't make a big change. Selfishly, I don't really care. But when it comes to our country, I think it would do the Democrat Party well to remember who their actual base is and start serving them.
Quick answer, 10 seconds. When we're sitting back here around next Christmas, will something like BBB have ultimately passed, or is it dead?
Well, I'll tell you what, Todd, I've been around a lot of this country, and I have yet to see a Build Back Better hat, so I'm going to leave it with that.
I'm curious to see if somebody comes up with one. Christmas is only a few days away. Make sure to watch Tommy's Final Thoughts, streaming exclusively on Fox Nation. Tommy, as always, thank you so much for being with us this Tuesday and all Tuesdays throughout this year. Looking forward to next year.